Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Monday, June 16th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, I will note that all commissioners are present tonight with the exception of Commissioner Smith, who is away. And I would ask you to check your mobile devices tonight. Be sure they're set to silent or vibrate so that don't interrupt our meeting. Remind all speakers as you come to the podium tonight, please press the button on the right. The red light should come on. That way we can hear you and we get a good YouTube recording also. All right. We're happy tonight to have Reverend Alicia Conley, President of Burke County NAACP at Mount Zion Baptist Church for our invocation. And then following Reverend Conley's invocation, we'll be led in tonight by J. Iverson Riddle Developmental Center resident, also with the Pledge of Allegiance. Very happy to have all of you with us tonight. So let's stand together for our invocation.
Let us pray, please. God, we come before you tonight with gratitude. Lord, we just want to thank you for all of your mighty acts. God, we are thanking you tonight for the blessings that you bestow upon us individually and collectively. God, we thank you for how you sustain us each and every day. Lord, I come before you tonight, and I just want to thank you for our county commissioners, for all of the staff, and for each person that is here tonight, and for every family that is represented. Now, God, I pray that you will guide the commissioners tonight and give them the wisdom that they need as they deliberate the agenda on this evening. Lord, I pray that you will give each of us the strength and the courage that is needed to do what is right and what is good for all of the citizens of this county. God, we pray for those that are in authority, not only in this county, but in our state and in our nation. Lord, help us all to be the leaders that our people need. And help us, God, to continue to lead and to be those type of persons that continue to empower our communities. God, help us to facilitate change, growth, and development. May this county be a place of peace, of opportunity, of justice, and equality. Thank you for everyone who works so diligently and for the sacrifices that they make so that we can continue to call Burke County a wonderful place in which to live and call home. Now, as I close, protect the people of this county. And God, we ask your blessing upon this meeting tonight and on the work that we do together each and every day in the name of community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Conley. Flag of the United States
of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And God bless you guys and God the States of America.
That's right.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight, leading in our pledge. All right, this brings us to item number 4, approval of agenda. Gentlemen, you've had the agenda for several days. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 5, approval of meeting minutes. Gentlemen, tonight we have minutes from March the 6th, 2025 Board of Commissioners Budget Strategic Planning Meeting, March the 7th, 2025 Board of Commissioners Budget and Strategic Planning, and also March 17th, 2025 Board of Commissioners Regular Meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve these minutes unless there are some corrections.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you for that. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Commissioner Burns, that is. Item number 6 comes to presentations. We have several presentations tonight. First item on the presentation agenda is recognition of George Hildebrand Fire and Rescue Department at their 55th anniversary. So at this time, we'd like to recognize those guys and maybe gals. Y'all come forward. Anybody here tonight? All right, well, okay. All right. Well, nonetheless, we're recognizing them and their service, leadership, and volunteer. And we do have a certification for them, I believe. Madam Clerk, I'm going to show it to you anyway. Right here it is. And maybe they can be at another meeting. We'll be glad to present it to them. We are very grateful for what all of our fire departments do, and in particular the George Hildebrand Fire and Rescue for the work they do in their community, and I know their community appreciates them as well. This brings us to item number 2. Recognition of Governor's Volunteer Service Award by Volunteer Burke. This will be presented tonight by Alicia Wilson, Director of Volunteer Services. Alicia, come forward. Thank you for being here. And Brownie's going to be with us also. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brownie Roachford with the Volunteer Burke Association. And Volunteer Burke is an association of volunteer leaders in nonprofits that their work is dependent upon those from volunteers and in their services and in their programs. And the Governor's Service Awards program was created by the Office of the Governor in 1979. It was to recognize North Carolina's most dedicated volunteers through the years. The award has been bestowed on thousands of North Carolinians who have shown concern and compassion for their neighbors through volunteering in their local communities. And in 1994, the North Carolina Commission on Volunteerism and Community Service was charged with overseeing the Governor's Service Awards. And our organization, Volunteer Burke, was designated as the county award coordinator. So the Governor's Volunteer Service Award honors the true spirit of volunteerism by recognizing individuals and groups that make a significant contribution to their community through volunteer service. An individual or a group from the public, nonprofit, and private sector may be nominated for this recognition award by a community member. They will make that nomination. We collect those nominations. And there are different categories. You can be an individual, you can be a group, it could be a national service group or a director of volunteers. And there are other categories on the area of service as like veterans or for youth or seniors in education, animals, and lots of others. And the nominations, as I said, are collected, and we send those to the commission in Raleigh. They review our county nominations, and the awards are presented locally by our organization at the annual recognition ceremony where Mr. Phil Smith spoke to our group. But we're really proud to have these people present tonight, and Ms. Alicia Wilson is going to introduce you to the 2025 recipients of the Governor's Service Awards.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Epley. I would first like to thank you for allowing us to come tonight and share these wonderful recipients of the Governor's Volunteer Service Award. And if I can ask the recipients to come up front, please. When I call your name, please step forward. Mr. Doug White. Doug is a volunteer at the Outreach Center, which currently serves 179 seniors in Burke County who are living in poverty. Doug has a caseload of 10 seniors he serves. He uses his own truck and gas and time to deliver food to them each month. He's very dependable, hardworking, has a wonderful, positive attitude. He has a generous heart, wanting to improve the quality of life of others. He visits with seniors and finds out their needs and goes above and beyond trying to help them. Some examples: he bought one senior a heater when she was cold. He assisted building a ramp for a married elderly couple, which allowed them to finally be able to get out of the house and go to church and experience the joy that comes from freedom and being able to get out and around people, which most of us take for granted. One person who works with the Outreach Center was in a bad car wreck and needed a new accessible vehicle, and Doug made that happen. Doug supported a senior who struggles with some things around her house, and he helped her clean it up and took loads to the dump in his truck for her. He is currently doing everything in his power to ensure that 2 seniors at this time who were about to get evicted remain in their homes. Thank you, Doug, for your service. Our next recipient is Mr. Jasper Hemphill. Jasper volunteers everywhere. He volunteers at Red Cross, Amorum, and Burke Literacy Council. He's a local responder for the Red Cross in disaster preparedness and routinely responds to fires and disasters in the community. You could say he's on duty 24 hours a day, providing immediate temporary relief, comfort, and support to the victims. He's ready to help at all times in day and night. In December, during the holidays, Jasper responded to 6 different calls, 6 days in a row. He assisted families with small children to help find shelter and necessities in the frigid cold weather. He always goes the extra mile. With Amorum, Jasper serves with his talents. He visits the patients, especially the veterans. Being an Army veteran with over 6 years of military service, he quickly bonds with the veterans. He goes through their home, checks on them, talks with them about whatever interests them, and shows them compassion. With the Burke Literacy Council, he's their best supporter and top ticket salesman. He does this with joy and always takes care of his customers to the end by delivering their food personally. He is a committed, dependable volunteer. And amongst all these other things, Jasper is a minister and serves St. Paul AME Church in Mount Airy. So he goes every Sunday to Mount Airy and is involved in mentoring the youth there. He definitely has a servant's heart. Thank you, Mr. Hemphill. Our next person is Joyce Petit with Amorum. Joyce has served as an office volunteer with Amorum since March of 2023. In fact, she is the only volunteer with her own office, I hear. Her passion to serve in administrative work has blessed the organization immensely. She volunteers 2 to 3 days a week, most of which are full days, 9 to 4, sometimes 9 to 5. The service Joyce provides as an office volunteer affects every aspect of Amorum, and most importantly, our patients and families. She serves alongside the medical records specialist at the Valdez campus. This is a tremendous help, not only at the Valdez campus, but also in Hudson and Caldwell County. She also helps with patient care unit charting, which includes entering records into patient charts. She helps our statistics and reporting specialists in our finance department with updates in Suncoast. Thank you, Joyce, for your work. We appreciate you. Our next recipient is Julie Dickinson. She is with J. Alverson Riddle Developmental Center. She's truly compassionate volunteer, embodying the essence of selflessness in everything she does. As a retiree from J. Alverson Riddle, her unwavering commitment to the residents reflect her deep care for their well-being. Julie participates wholeheartedly in special events like Special Olympics, Resident Triathlon, campus dances, Marsha's Closet pop-ups, walking from classroom to classroom, reading books, and more. She also spends quality time with the residents in the hospital or in our medical care unit, always prioritizing their comfort and happiness. Her generosity extends to sponsoring residents who do not have family or financial means, demonstrating her dedication to enhancing their quality of life. On Sundays, Julie is also part of our chapel volunteer group. She walks with us to the Maple Cottage, and we get residents and we take them to chapel and we worship with them and bring them back. After chapel's over, you can never find Julie because she's still in the home working with the residents. Thank you, Julie. Our last group is Salem United Methodist Church with J. Iverson Riddle Developmental Center. These volunteers have been a partner to J. Iverson Riddle Developmental Center for the past decade. Their commitment to the residents is truly inspiring. We can reach out to them with any resident need and undoubtedly respond. For example, they provide resident personal care products, clothing items, and leisure items. They also provide their time and companionship. Anytime we ask them for assistance on a campus event or community drive, we can count on Salem United Methodist Church to be there. They help with Special Olympics, Christmas caroling this year, and they also are part of our chapel volunteer group. They consistently bring joy and laughter wherever they volunteer. Not only do they volunteer, but Salem United Methodist Church volunteers to sponsor 7 residents. Their financial contributions and generous holiday gifts has significantly enriched the lives of every resident they sponsor. Thank you. We are missing one recipient, and that is Caroline Avery from Burke United Christian Ministries.
Thank you, Alicia. You guys just hang right there for just a minute. We got something we want to present to you, and I want to say on behalf of the board how much we appreciate all that you guys do to help here in Burke County, and we certainly understand how important volunteerism is in every area of the work here in Burke County. And again, we appreciate all that you guys have done. Jasper?
You will. Thank you for being here. Congratulations, Miss Joy.
All right, our final presentation tonight comes from our county manager. This is an introduction of one more and one less. And Mr. Manager, I'll let you introduce our guest here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board is aware, we have started down this path to really invest into foster care, children experiencing and in foster care here in Burke County. And we've for some amount of time have struggled to recruit and retain licensed foster parents, and that really creates a system where children are being placed at times out of the county, long distances away, or sometimes not in a the appropriate family-type atmosphere, and I think, the data is clear that what's best for the child is to, really be embraced and loved in a caring home that provides that kind of foundation for their youth and development. And currently in Burke County, we have about 11 families that are participatory, and we are so grateful for them. And there's lots of other folks that, for a variety of reasons, may have served and no longer able to. But we're just, I think, trying to really launch a campaign that puts some level of focus and advocacy on the needs of these children and the support that they need. And so over the last few weeks, we've been putting together a pretty dynamic group of folks who are in the industry. And over the next few months, with the board's support and permission, I'd like to start inviting some of those folks to just come and explain to us who they are and what they do. And Jeff Marburger, with One More, One Less, is right at the top of that list. So again, I would just ask if he would come and just tell us who they are and what they do, and formally welcome him to the Burke County team and his organization. We're so grateful for you.
Thank you guys so much for having us. It's an absolute privilege and an honor to be here with you guys, and we don't take this lightly. And it is the first county that has ever invited us into a board meeting like this, and so it's an absolute privilege to be a part of this. And so it truly is a pandemic across North Carolina. Our organization exists to inform, inspire, and intertwine the local church with foster care reunification and adoption. And we see foster care across the state, and this is not a Burke County specific problem, but you guys are the first ones that have ever invited us into this type of arena. So we are so thankful for that. There are, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but about 188 kids as of the April report here in Burke County that are in DSS's care. And what that means, as I'm sure all of you guys know, is that these kids have experienced a dire circumstance that's led them to be taken. When we first got into foster care, my wife and I, we are from Cleveland County, and we've been foster parents for about, we've been engaged in the foster care world for the last 12 years. We have 5 adopted kids and 1 biological son. But when we first came, we started talking to our pediatrician, and he said that there are kids that he would call the local DSS in our area, and the next month he would see the same kid with the same parent. And it finally got to the point where he called DSS, and they said, we just don't have anywhere to put them, and the situation is not dire enough. And so I think that's a picture of where we're at as a whole in the state of North Carolina. And so again, I sound like a broken record, but thank you so much for giving this attention. I believe it is of the utmost value because the next generation is at stake. And there's about 12,000 kids across North Carolina that are experiencing foster care. And so what we do, and as I said, my wife and I, this has become a personal mission of ours. We've been married for about 17 years, have 6 kids. Our oldest is will be 15 next month, and our youngest is almost adopted, and he is 6 months old. And so we've got the gamut, everybody in between. But we got 4 boys and 2 girls, and it's just a blessing of our lives to be able to be foster parents and adoptive parents. And so we truly desire for others to walk in that this is truly an opportunity. This is not a problem or an obligation. This is an opportunity for people like us to do things like this. And that's a mantra that we really try to hammer home to local churches and the people alike, that we are not called to live for retirement. We are called to something greater than that, and I believe that foster kids provide that opportunity. Our project director likes to say that they're the anointed ones, that these kids in foster care are anointed to make us a little less selfish. And I believe that with all of my heart. And so what our organization does, we've existed since about 2019, heck of a time to launch an organization and a nonprofit right before COVID. But the Lord has sustained us and provided for us in ways that we would never imagine. But what we strive to do is to engage local churches all across North Carolina to really create a system in which foster parents are recruited, supported, and truly challenged to live on mission. And part of that is these kids and these birth parents alike who not only we have a heart to see kids reunified with these parents, but we really try to bring the church in close to that, as I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen some of the effects that these kids experience, and they should never experience that. And a lot of times, as Mr. Bryan and I have discussed, that it's a systemic issue. A lot of these kids are in foster care because their parents were in foster care, and that's all they know, a survival mindset that they need to get out of. And so that's the picture in Cleveland County. What we've done is we've had some really successful partnerships with the DSS there and the Guardian Ad Litem programs there, and we really strive to intertwine the local church with these local agencies, that at the end of the day, every child is essentially that comes into custody is in DSS custody, right? And so no matter what platform or what area of expertise you are, these kids at the end of the day come through DSS. And so our heart is truly to connect the church, which we believe there is a strong power in, and we undeniably say that the church is option A for this, and we try to challenge them and to inspire them and to inform them that this is an issue. And so we really seek to do that, and then we set up systems within the church where we use volunteers like the ones that were just standing in front of us to do really great work, because Dave Thomas, founder of Wendy's, said everybody's for a child having a family. And we believe that with all of our hearts, that everybody believes that children should live in families. And so it's just a matter of how we connect the church, which is the power, and then other entities as well. We don't work alongside just the church, but to these needs that are there, and really tell the story in a compelling way. And so that's what we've given our lives to the last about 12 years. And so truly an honor to be in front of you guys this morning or this afternoon or this evening, whichever it is. But we're thankful for that. Are there any questions or anything else you want me to add, Brian?
You know, I was taken back and some of the conversations we've had, just the success that you all have had in Cleveland, certainly, but eastern parts of the state. You know, you talk just briefly about the you know, you try to two churches in each county to be the lead in that model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so what our mission is to have 2 champion churches in every county in North Carolina. And so we really strive to connect with 2 churches that then engage with the rest of the county to really create an iron that sharpens iron, if you will. People that run together run a little faster, right? And so that's our heart, that churches would have somebody else in the county that they can look to say, hey, what's the best practice over here that's working for you guys that we can implement over here? And then we exist as a think tank, kind of a conduit of grace between the church and the state. And we've dealt a ton with the state. We know exactly what goes on. We've adopted 4 of our kids from the state, from Cleveland County DSS, and so we know all the ins and outs and the ability to navigate that well. Sometimes it can be exasperating, as everybody knows that it's a broken system, and it's predicated on something that's so ugly that a child needed to be removed from that situation. And so we know it's not clean, but we encourage people to move towards the mess and to really do that. And so in Burke County, that would just be the example here, is I don't know exactly what it looks like. I don't know. I shared that with Brian. I don't know exactly what a commissioner's meeting looks like and how that impacts, but I know that you guys probably know the right people to engage with in the county and the churches that would be able to make an impact. And it doesn't necessarily have to be young families. You know, we've seen people that are retired take in kids that are 16 and 17 that offer 2 years of their lives to create a family forever for them. And we have a program in Cleveland County as well, Brian, called Not Far From Home, where we have a house that functions as a transitional house for kids that are aging out of foster care, where they go through a 12-month program to try to learn basic life skills, and then also to create a system around them. Because so often what boils down to is that people can't get on their feet because they don't have anybody around them to help them or to teach them. And so we have that as well, which we would love to see implemented here in Burke County as well, and to be a connector there. Because that's another model that we're really trying to go after, is that churches have parsonages, and a lot of times those parsonages are sitting empty, and that can be a huge benefit to the foster care crisis that's across North Carolina if people just are made aware of it.
I'd like to say
All
something.
right. Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Marbury,
Chairman.
for your information. Any questions,
Yeah,
Council?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say something. Jeff, thank you once again. I was talking to Brian about this very thing just recently. We've got 181 kids here, and it just seems like we got a lot of churches, and to me, it seems like this is a good way to kind of work together and get everybody in a home, and, you know, so we can all do it together. But thank you for doing all that.
Thank you so much.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you guys for your time.
All right, this brings us to item number 7, scheduled public hearings tonight. This comes from our county manager, fiscal year 25-26 budget ordinance and public hearing. Mr. Manager, we'll hear from you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I want to quickly do a recap. Obviously, last month, we spent an extensive amount of time. I assure you it'll be less time this evening, but still want to hit the highlights of the budget. As you all are aware, we presented last month. It's been out for public inspection in about 5 different locations, as well as in our office and online. I want to, again, publicly thank each of you for your input into the budget process. This is something we've been working on now for the better part of 6 months, starting really with evaluation of how our current fiscal year is operating, but go into March for your strategic planning process. And then as recently as the last couple of weeks, we've had time in one-on-one or two-on-one settings to kind of go through and make sure that the budget does capture your vision for public policy here in Burke County. So again, I want to run through a recap. I'll move quickly and then happy to answer any questions. And then we can hold the public hearing and the board can consider the document. So as you all know, this would be the 3rd budget with a formalized strategic plan, and everything really from a decision-making priority at a staff level revolves around this document. Heading into next year, your 5 focus areas haven't changed. And coming out of your March work session, we're able to really capture what the board's top priorities are. These would be priorities that were supported at the highest level by the board. And as you all know, when we go through our prioritization process, that's represented by dots. And so the goals that have the highest level of commitment and intentionality from the board or get the highest, the most attention in the resource allocation. What I'd point out heading into next year is there's a real point of emphasis from the Board of Commissioners on the county's business model, being fiscal fiduciaries, being efficient, and again, a very clear emphasis on economic development. And I think that each of these were directly impact our budget and we're focused on as we were drafting it. We use those priorities to as really a refinement, a filtration process. We know that there's never enough resources to do everything, so we use those policy areas to identify your top goals and align resource allocations with that through output, recognizing that the budget is a scientific document. It is a compilation of funding sources and disbursements, but it's also a tool used to create cause and effect. And your strategic plan aims to make us better at all things that we do. As we now are in this multi-year phase of this administrative plan that we've begun referring to as REACT, Rebuild, Rethink. REACT was about stabilization. We all know that back in 2022, 2023, when this plan was originally drafted, the county had a significantly high turnover. We were very stagnant in economic development. Our capital plan was not moving, and so largely that was about setting the foundation and stabilizing some of those indicators. As we transitioned into Rebuild, that was just really about doing things the right way. What are our industry best practices? How do we benchmark? And now we're continuing to operate in this Rethink phase, which is how do we do Burke County government better and different. A big deliverable from that Rethink phase is our commitment to re-engineering. That's manufacturing budget flexibility. We know that we typically experience 2.5% property tax-based growth, and sales tax has, although seen some growth, not sufficient to achieve the level of improvement that we have desired. So when you look at re-engineering savings, which would be either revenue maximization, cost avoidance, or operating at a lower cost, we've been able to manufacture about $8.5 million of flexibility over a 3-year period. And that manufactured flexibility has been reinvested into your strategic plan. Things like human capital, we've invested into employee pay to make sure that we have market-based wages, to make sure that we have clear identity in our culture, who we are, what we're working on, what our value systems are. We've experienced about a 25% increase in public education funding. We've invested into housing and public safety improvements. We've mobilized your capital improvement plan, and then we've adopted a mentality and a methodology of operating in a very lean way. Those human capital investments have generated our best talent retention metrics that Burke County has seen. That results in a lower number of vacant positions. When you have lower number of vacant positions, you're able to more appropriately allocate the workload and prevent burnout and those type things. Again, we think that's a big component of high performance. And then you're able to start shifting your average tenure from your workforce to more experience base. And you can see there, that's just comparing 22 to 24 and 25 as far as average tenure. So what we know now is folks are choosing to work at Burke County. They're staying here longer. And again, we think that will help us ultimately deliver a higher level of service delivery. I mentioned the 25% income, our investment into public education. That's moved us up about 13 spots in our local education funding rank. That has provided Burke County Schools an opportunity to be the only school district in our region that has lowered the student-teacher ratio in classrooms, as well as re-engaging in teacher supplements to help support the state salary. And that's really led to an improved data set around lots of things, including things like workforce and college readiness that would be reading proficiency and mathematical proficiency by the 3rd grade. We've also begun implementing your public safety strategic plan. Here's one performance metric out of that where we've seen significant improvement in dispatch delay from our 911 to getting emergency services moving towards the event in a much quicker way. I mentioned mobilization of your capital plan. So we have both a major and non-major capital plan that's supported by debt management policies and fund balance policy. And I feel confident that our capital program is sustainable and in a really good position. Lastly, this component of Rethink, adaptation of a lean philosophy, just how can we maximize efficiency and output. This is a measurement of our enterprise funds, solid waste and water sewer, and demonstrating that when they aren't self-supporting, that artificially puts pressure on our tax rate. So being able to change that business envelope really has provided a platform for them to self-support and be planning for the future and help us work in a more lean way. When I think about what is Rethink for our upcoming budget, the budget that's proposed for you to consider this evening, I think that there's really 4 Rethink deliverables. As I mentioned back last month, there's not a new program, there's not a new FTE, there's not a new idea in this year's budget. It's really about incremental and marginal gains and trying to do everything we're currently responsible for better. And I think each of these 4 deliverables fall into that same concept. Next year's budget does have a component of regulatory reduction. I'll talk about that in just a second. Enhances citizen engagement, reduces the property tax rate, and I think it advances economic development, and all of those policies align with your top priorities. So we know that land use policy and a universal development ordinance has a tremendous impact on economic development and on housing. We've seen housing prices continue to escalate really over the last 5 or 6 years at an unsustainable rate. And we've seen, again, as I mentioned, some stagnation in economic development, and some of that, to some extent, relates to development cost. So included in next year's budget is a priority to continue to streamline and reduce the land use development regulatory code. We know that takes time and money, and so the goal is to push those down in an attempt to create and induce community investment. Citizen engagement is another Rethink deliverable. We are excited to propose the first ever Citizens Academy in Burke County. This would be a 6-week long session with about 15 applicants where people would come and engage and really be the interface between our citizens and county government for folks who want to have input and ask questions and learn and be active and involved, where they would get grassroots experience into the inner workings of Burke County. And this would be the first in the history of Burke County government to launch that. It's about a 1% decrease in the proposed property tax rate. The budget is balanced on 55.5 cents. That would be the second reduction in the last 3 budgets, and really help minimize the taxing burden, economic impact on county taxpayers. And then lastly, one of the rethink goals that, and really I think that one of the prime points of emphasis for the board in the 25-26 budget is economic development, really with a focus on higher paying jobs, upward economic mobility, as well as tax-based investment that helps us keep taxing rates low. We all know that GDP in Burke County is less today than it was 6 years ago, and that's in a period of rising prices. We also know that 22,000 people a day are required to leave Burke County for gainful employment, and half of those make less than $3,500 a month. So one of the strategies that has continued to be endorsed and supported is a speculative Class A industrial shell building at Cathy Road. We'll continue to advance that project. This is a conceptual rendering. Other projects like T-hangars at the Hickory Airport. And as a reminder, since this project started, the board's seen growth of personal aircraft over $1 million, from 9 personal aircraft over $1 million. And remember, this is in Burke County, so there's personal property tax that comes off that, from 9 to 22. That's grown the personal property tax base from about 35 million to about 110 million. And that generates significant revenue that we can use to operate county government. There are some challenges in this year's budget. We continue to see increased operational costs, things like contracted services and labor. Capital escalation is absolutely something that we're continuing to monitor and manage. We continue to see some shifts and some state unfunded regulatory costs that really impact our business model, and what I would call funding shifts. And then lastly, some of our economic indicators continue to show uncertainty. We're really trying to make sure that we're evaluating things like sales tax and building and development fees, so that our forecasts are measurable and sustainable. When we talk about increasing costs of doing business, we are in a little bit of a growth period, but we're also still in a fairly high inflationary season. Things like the participation in the local government employee retirement system, which is managed by the state treasurer's office. Roughly, that impacts, there's a law enforcement component as well as a general government component. A 1% increase is a $319,000 cost to our budget. Other things like kinship, we were just talking about foster care. Kinship placement is a good thing, but historically kinship placements for foster care haven't been paid, and that started last year legislatively. And although it's good policy and supports that function of family members being involved, the county has to pay 50% of that, and we expect that to cost be about an $88,000 cost increase next year. Our risk management portfolio has seen some increases. We know that even though we're self-insured, self-funded, there's wildfires out west, and there's natural disasters, in our region, and the insurance companies who are making these large payouts then divide that cost amongst their customers, and we absorb some of that. Simple things like our contract with Microsoft for their enterprise system, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, the number of licenses we have. Just to continue to use those applications, it's going to cost about $31,000 more. So all in all, it's about a $1.3 million, what I would call inflationary cost of doing business increase. That represents about a little over 1.1 pennies on our taxing rate. So I mentioned that there's some uncertainty in the economy. A lot of reasons for that. Last month we walked through some of those manufacturing index, supply chain index components. But largely, what I would say is that our revenue forecasting is done first, that we don't develop a spend budget and then back into a revenue component. We develop, it's really a strategy to make sure that we're operating inside of our means, with a structurally balanced budget. And our revenue budget was developed with a focus on diversification of revenue sources, relying on data and a very conservative approach. We've also used Moody's Analytics to compare what we would consider recession risk today to what was the Great Recession in '07. And I think the takeaway is that there was, even though there's certainly reasons to sense some instability, there's some indicators that would suggest that there's purpose and optimism, and given some of the investments that we've made in economic development, we had that kind of mentality in our revenue forecasting. The total revenue for the budget, general fund, is $116.2 million. This is kind of difficult to see, but I'm very pleased to know that property tax is less than 53%. It's about 52.9% of our total revenue. Portfolio, a couple years ago, that was over 55%, so we're becoming less reliant on that. And again, this idea of diversification allows us to do that. Restricted intergovernmental revenues and sales tax are our second and third largest. That would compare very routinely for other counties in North Carolina. You can see here how we compare by revenue source and type over the last 4 budgets, really. And the change, most of that being manufactured, equates to about $3.1 million. So about $626,000 in property tax, which is about 1.96%. So about half the rate of inflation. We've got some sales and service increase there that I'll talk about just in a moment, as well as a reimbursement from social services, which is social services, our largest department. It's about a $22 million budget. And it operates as a quasi-state function where much of the cost, if we capture it appropriately, is reimbursed to the county. I mentioned about a 1.96% property tax base growth, and you can see following the 2023 reval, it's been really a pretty flat year-over-year change. If you go back to the prior before the 2023 reval, you see kind of the same trend there. That 1.96% we'll see in just a moment generates about $212 million of total growth. And when applied at it, we balanced the budget at 98.5% collection rate, which is well below our recent performance trends. So this $212 million in value growth at a 98.5% collection rate and 55.5 cent taxing rate generates this $626,000 of anticipated new revenue. I mentioned earlier the recommended taxing rate at 55.5 cents. And then just to give you a reconciliation of the sales and service revenue change of $727,000, the vast majority of that comes from year 2 of full implementation of EMS billing. And we have continued to see just really dynamic return on that decision, and it is making EMS a much more affordable department to run and allowing us to enhance our performance as well. Sales tax is budgeted flat, Article 39, 40, and 42. We've seen Article 39 is the first 1 cent. It's our largest component of sales tax, and it is flat year to date. In next year's budget, we've not budgeted that up even $1. The year-over-year growth, as you can see, has been declining for some time. 40 and 42 are kind of similar. They've seen about 1.7% growth, so still about half the rate of inflation. Article 39 is a point of sale. Article 40 and 42 are collected at a statewide level and redistributed based on population percentages. So these tell us a little bit about how our economy is performing. Burke's economy is performing a little bit slower than the state. And I think that's us being able to capitalize off of places like Charlotte and Raleigh and some of the bigger, more urban areas. We've also accounted for the continued loss of revenue from Medicaid hold harmless. We saw the introduction of tailored plans in 2021 and Medicaid expansion in 2023. With the decline of Article 44 sales tax, which was repealed in 2012, very similar to Article 39, but the increase in Medicaid costs being paid by the state for Burke County residents, which is 2 out of the last 3 years, more than 15% because of tailored plans and Medicaid expansion. It's really led to a significant decline in our anticipated revenue. So this has been about a $1.6 million reoccurring decline in revenue that has been absorbed in this year's budget, and we've tried to continue that concept into next year. One of the really positives that especially helps us on, on the actual experience, not as much as the budget, but we've continued to offset some of those lost revenue streams with investment income. And I know that the board's well aware of this, and we've talked about it many times, but we've grown investment income, and I really tip my hat to our finance team and to Margaret for continuing to lead and manage this. But from $63,000 to $3.3 million over the last 3 years. This year, we don't budget or balance the budget on investment income because there's volatility and market uncertainties, but we did budget $825,000, so again, significantly lower than the actual experience, but something that that does help, and that's an increase of about $325,000 from the prior year. Closing out the revenue portfolio here, we do have some rate and fee changes, primarily in water sewer, environmental health, and in building inspections. And if you recall, last month we kind of took a deeper dive into each of these about how we compared them to benchmark counties on a variety of different ways. Building inspections and environmental health, essentially the change is about $25. Water sewer is based on cost. So when you look at labor, the cost of a meter, the cost of a tap, and especially for some of the 3/4 and 1 inch stuff, we're almost losing money every time we sign up a new customer. So this fee change was simply intended to keep that enterprise fund self-sufficient and to recapture the cost of installing those components. I'll transition to the expenditure side. Again, $116.2 million total budget. You can see here, public safety is about 30% of our budget, education is about 23%, and human services are about 26%. This compares very similarly to prior years. What you would have seen is human services has declined by about 2 to 3%, and that's been reinvested into education and public safety. This year's budget is about 2.8% higher than last year. And last year was about 3.65%. So you can see if you use this 4% baseline inflationary index, the last 2 years have been below that. Of that proposed budget, about 75% is allocated to people, about 22% to operations, and about 3% to capital. This is just showing how we compare to some of our more kind of regional and what I would consider LGC peer groups. We're a little bit heavier on the people side, and a little bit lower on the operational side. And that just tells me that over time, we need to continue to look for ways to automate and to evaluate our staffing models. We always talk about price and value, as any good company would. What are we offering and what are we charging to get that? Our property tax levy per capita remains 82nd in North Carolina, meaning that only 17 counties in North Carolina have a lower taxing impact, economic burden, at about $657 per capita. And I like to break those down between services that, as a political subdivision of the state, we're required to offer and what we are asking our citizens to contribute through property tax on a per capita basis versus the services that are authorized and that we believe are offering value to the community. But you can see there, roughly $657 per capita. Shifting quickly to your strategic plan, as I mentioned earlier, your focus areas have not changed. Those same 5 will remain in place for our upcoming year. When we evaluate the employer of choice concept, we are continuing to work towards substantial equivalency, making modifications and improvements to our WellWorks clinic, doing some employee recognition events, and putting some performance management systems in. Our total expected gross payroll next year is about $32.289 million. And we'll be recommending a 2.25% COLA, which is, when you compare across the state, a little bit lower than some of what our peers are recommending. But we feel confident, based on the investment that the board has enabled us to make in prior years, that we're going to remain competitive and that our human capital metrics will be stable. Public safety is all about trying to continue to implement and invest in your public safety strategic plan. It's got a component that deals with our opioid settlement dollars and investments there and some innovative strategies. And as a reminder, that group will meet tomorrow for their first meeting, so we're super excited about that, as well as supporting our volunteer fire departments. Total investment next year in public safety is about a 3% increase at $30.9 million. Our fire departments, we have one proposed rate change that the board gave direction on at your April meeting. That's Salem. They'll be moving to 10 cents. The average rate across the 21 departments is about 10.8 cents. That generates about $6.9 million. And the average revenue is about $384,000. So you can see here the estimated property values as well as the revenue and the proposed change. And Salem is highlighted as the only district with a rate change going into next year. Under community advancement, a lot of activity here with broadband, introduction of a Citizens Academy, the water sewer AIA study, and looking for ways to promote housing. And I think, again, all of those have some level of support in the budget. Our outside grants or contributions is about $451,000, so it's about $25,000 less than last year. One of the takeaways is we were able to increase the Burke Rescue allocation by about $25,000. And as I know they presented to you all a couple of months ago about some of the challenges that they've encountered with recruiting and retaining volunteers. Economic development, we've talked about the business park and the Shell building. We've talked about product development with water sewer, things like trying to expand sewer that would support industrial growth in parts of the county that are not yet unlocked. And then looking, as I mentioned earlier, with deregulatory, trying to make our policies and our development codes more adaptive and friendly to lower that cost. Physical stewardship. The boards will later consider the HHS building, which is one of the goals under physical stewardship, as well as evaluating our solid waste facility so that we are able to remove the concentration risk that we have with Republic and their fee changes, continuing to administer your capital improvement plan, and staying inside of the financial parameter policies that you have with your debt policies, fund balance policies, and those components. I would report that you were given your full capital improvement plan, which included both major and non-major out-year priority areas that are, again, trying to be level set funding for 5 years out in the future. We do that for our governmental funds as well as our water, sewer, and solid waste funds, and feel confident about the sustainability and the prioritization that each of our operating departments will be able to have their needs met. Our rolling stock budget, again, fairly flat when you look at vehicle fleet replacement at about $1.2 million next year. And for our operational departments, their capital allocations too. Very intentional, very straight line so that we know that we can afford and sustain. Quickly on public education funding for next year, the goals have remained consistent to improve competitive operational funding, support teacher supplements, and improving teacher-student ratios. The allocation for next year for Burke County Public Schools is $20,500,000. That's a 1% increase to $250,000, or roughly $22.75 per pupil. We have a proposed 2.6% increase for Western Piedmont Community College. That's about $70,000. That would take the total allocation to a tick over 3.5. In addition to that, there would be in year 3 of a $425,000 capital deferred allocation that goes into a sinking fund that the community college can draw down from on a project-by-project basis. Solid waste, as you can see, continuation of I think an improved business model, and we're still working towards a long-term rate stabilization study. As I mentioned earlier, we will continue to do in-house MSW transport, which has reduced our operating costs significantly and allowed this fund to become self-sustaining, but we have a concentration risk with Republic and Caldwell County. Their tipping fees will increase about 5.6% next year, and we've adjusted the household rate from $88 to $92 to reflect that, because that will largely just offset the cost incurred. As you all know, we handle about 70,000 tons of MSW per year. And that increase for their scale tipping fees would generate significant cost for our department. Water sewers, similar. We are proposing a increase from the $25 monthly fee to $30 monthly fee. No consumption rate changes. That will remain the exact same. And continuing to work on your AIA and mapping study. There too, also working on a long-term rate stabilization study to ensure that we're offsetting the cost of some of these municipal partner INIs as well as the counties. Our health insurance plan and just some other deliverables has no premium increase for employees. There is a 6% increase for family-dependent spousal coverage on our HSA side. As you all know, we have an HSA and a PPO plan. It's a 10% increase on the PPO side for for family-dependent and spousal. I do think this budget meets all of our operational high priority and capital needs. It is the third consecutive year of a zero-based budget. The cumulative reduction in our operating costs over that 3-year period is about $395,000. I mentioned the continuation or the investment into our people. One other highlight that I think is relevant is last year this board took action to fund local dollars for Meals on Wheels. Our senior services has a wait list of about 500 people for Meals on Wheels. That's primarily funded through a block grant, a federal block grant, and there had never been any local allocation. So this budget, similar to last year's, includes a $50,000 additional contribution to help begin to work on some of the backlog there. We talked about funding for outside partners and maintaining your fiscal policy. So I'll leave you with generally an executive summary that I think the state of the county is strong. I think our purpose is clear. I think we're working on the right things. I think that our public policy focus areas of housing and economic development and efficiency and fiscal stewardship have all shown some return, and that this budget continues to pursue those. I think that we have stabilized performance metrics, human capital. I think our debt, our fund balance equity ratios are strong. And I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman, that you or any other board members may have. I appreciate each of you and all the time you've put into getting us to this point.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, before I open the public hearing, does anybody have questions to the manager on this item? All right. Seeing, hearing none, thank you, Mr. Manager. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Do we have anyone here tonight to speak to the budget item? Seeing, hearing no one speak to the budget item, I'll close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion to adopt fiscal year 25-26 budget ordinance number 2025-07 as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt for year 25 through 26 budget ordinance number 2025-07 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That is 4-0, Madam Clerk. Motion number 2, to approve a memorandum of agreement between Burke County and the Burke County Board of Education for fiscal year 25-26.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve memorandum of agreement between the Burke County and the Burke County Board of Education for fiscal year 25-26.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That is 4-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 3, motion number 3, to approve funding for nonprofits as set forth in fiscal year 25-26 budget. And gentlemen, this is for BDI and VEDIC or VEDIC. So I'm going to take these motions separately. I'm going to ask Commissioner Burns, if he doesn't mind, to facilitate the motion for BDI. Since I am part of that board, I'm going to recuse myself from that. And Mr. Burns, if you would take the motion number 3 for BDI, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I also would like to make known that I am a part of the VEDIC board, so I'll be recusing from the second vote. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to approve funding for BDI for fiscal year 25-26 budget.
Commissioner Burns, I will make the motion to approve funding for BDI for fiscal year 25-26.
What am I missing there?
Take the vote.
Oh, take a vote. All in favor, show of hands. I thought you could still do that part, sorry.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Burns. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to fund Vedic for fiscal year 25-26, and Mr. Burns, as well as Commissioner Barrier, will be recused from this vote.
Well, then I'll make a motion to approve funding for nonprofits as set forth in fiscal year 25-26 budget for Vedic.
Council, since we're only going to be left tonight with 2 to vote on that item, do we need to move that to next month?
Probably say, because you need a quorum, which is a majority of the board, I think, under your rules and under the statute anyway. So you need to have 3 here who can vote. But if you can just hold it off for a minute, let me take a look at something real quick, because it may be that's not the case. Can we just hold that one open for a second?
Okay, we'll let you work on that for a moment. While you're doing that, if it's okay, we will go ahead and hear public comment.
Mr. Chairman, what about the rest of the nonprofits, which was item 3?
Okay, we'll go ahead and get that right now. Item number 3 is a motion to approve funding for nonprofits that's set forth in the budget for 25-26, all except BDI and Vedic. And so I'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor of motion number 3, signify by the uplifted hand. That's 4-0. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, this time we'll hear informal public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody to speak tonight?
Just one speaker tonight, Miss Carla Kincaid.
Right. Carla, come on up.
Good evening, Carla Kincaid. 26 NC 126, Morgan, North Carolina. I'm just here to just remind everybody in commemoration of the Emmanuel 9, which is tomorrow. And this is by the Evangelical Church, Lutheran Church in America. And that was because Reverend Pickney, along with John Simmons, were both graduates from the Lutheran Church Theological Southern Seminary. And so they are the ones who were responsible for the resolution to commemorate June 17th as a day of repentance for the martyrdom of the Emmanuel 9 that we all know of that took place in Charleston. Some of those names were Reverend Clementon Pickney, Cynthia Marie Graham Hurd, Susan Jackson, Ethelene Lane, DePayne Middleton, Doctor, and Tawanza Sanders, Daniel Lee Simmons, Sharonda Coleman Singleton, and Myra Thompson, who were murdered by a self-proclaimed white supremacist while they were gathered for Bible study and prayer at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church, often referred to as Mother Emanuel, there in Charleston, South Carolina, where I've had the pleasure of visiting. And so they've marked that as a day of repentance, and that is tomorrow. And just a reminder, it just encouraged a reaffirmation that commitment to repenting of the sins of racism and white supremacy, which continue to plague the church, to venerate the martyrdom of the Emmanuel 9, and to mark this day of penitence with study and prayer. And if you could go to their website on elca.org, they have resources which includes litanies and prayers for the commemoration of the Emmanuel 9. Also, this week, we are also celebrating a federal holiday of Juneteenth, which is going to be held on Thursday around the country. And Juneteenth, of course, commemorates that day, June the 19th, when federal soldiers arrived in Galveston to take control of Texas and ensure the slaves were freed per the Emancipation Proclamation. And it's short for Juneteenth, is because of on June 19th. And why is it called that? It was the day that the Union troops arrived in Galveston. It became known as Juneteenth by the newly freed slaves of Texas. And of course, we remember that President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 18th of 63 of January, and that the effect was limited. And a lot of people have questions about this, and that's why I was going through it. It only applied to those states that succeeded during the Civil War, leaving slavery intact for slave states that stayed with the Union. So there's a lot of things and a lot of learning still going on about June 19th, but I don't think a lot of people knew about the commemoration day for the Charleston Nine. So I thank you for having me to my time in going through some of those educational things I think that everybody needed to know. I know there's some looking from home and at your commissioners meeting this evening, but there's still a lot of people that's not educated. I just thank you for your time. Thank you for all you do. I'm here whether I'm speaking or not. I'm still supporting you, county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid. Anyone else, Madam Clerk? All right. Seeing here none, I'll close the public hearing at this time. All right. Mr. Hall, you got us an answer yet? Okay. I got time. We're going on to consent agenda. Mr. Manager, tell us all about it.
Thanks, sir. Several items for consideration. Item 1 from our clerk, and this is an appointment to the local emergency planning committee. This is a mechanic required because of our emergency management fire marshal into emergency services shift, so it's appointing Dominic in his new role. Item number 2 is also appointments and removals to our JCPC board, and several appointments there as well in your packet for review. Item 3, also from the clerk, June is heavy on appointments, is reappointments, to seats 1 and 2 for the Regional Aging Advisory Committee. Item 4 is appointment and reappointment to Western Piedmont Community College for Lamar Smitherman, and that would be a 4-year term. Item 5 would be our year-end budget amendment number 23. It's $3,460,980. As a reminder, this isn't the appropriation of any new funds. This is closing some capital projects and moving capital to where it back to our general fund. Item number 6 is adoption of project ordinance for the school central office. This would be to appropriate $10 million of their available capital. They've already spent about 1.5, and we estimate the total project at about 11.5. Item number 7 from the finance office. This is approval of the tax collection agreement with the town of Drexel. There'd be a 2% commission associated with that. Similar, the other terms and conditions are similar to our other tax collection agreements. Item number 8 is from general services. This is to extend a 3-year term at a neutral cost for patent cleaning to do our cleaning services. Item 9 is from the tax department. It's our collection report for May 2025. And item 10 is your monthly release and refund from tax refund report for May 2025. Happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on the consent item? Seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by lifting the hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Brings us to item number 10, items for decision. We'll hear from the county manager concerning Human Resource Center renovation project, RFQ for design services. Mr. Manager.
So thank you again. Another exciting step forward. I hope for one of our last or maybe our final remaining major capital project with our Health and Human Services building, commonly referred to as HRC. We know that building was built 50 plus years ago. It's been reinvested into a couple of times, but certainly today it's not being used in the way it was designed. And it's been one of the board's top priorities for the last couple of years. It's included in your capital improvement plan, similar to your strategic plan. In March of 2023, the board began drafting its first ever multi-year capital improvement plan that made an attempt to look at space needs, structural integrity, and then assigning financing and timelines to that as well to do a comprehensive master plan. We've tried to, the deliverables out of that multi-year plan was to identify short, medium, long-term goals Again, a timeline and a payment plan, while maintaining pretty strict debt parameters and fund balance management, and then get that to the board for approval. The plan outlines funding sources. To this point, our entire, as you know, capital improvement plan has been funded either through grant, capital reserve funds, or pay-as-you-go. This project, and we've applied for some federal and state support for this building project, but outside of that, it may be a debt finance capital improvement. When we look at those short, midterm, and long-term, it is very reassuring and very positive that many of them are either in process or done. As I mentioned, this would be the final remaining major capital project that has been prioritized so high in your capital plan. And so we've gone through the mechanics of soliciting an RFQ for design architectural services. I think some things to keep in mind about the building is it is a bit unique in how it's used, but being both administrative and clinical. The social services department's about 199 FTEs. The public health department's about 50 FTEs. So when you put those different types, even though there is some shared population in who they serve, they're very different in what they do. And you marry the volume of employees along with the number of citizens that may be there for day-to-day business. As you can imagine, it becomes a very busy building. The building as it sits today is about 62,000 square feet. We, as you all know, had to acquire 201 Avery for adult protective services, and we still have people sparsed about. So one of the questions, given the cost of square footage, was how much space do we need? And I think the building's being used very differently than it was designed. We all know that the school system is still there. So we've gone through a space planning process to really evaluate long-term, if every function of both departments were inside the same building, what would be the required amount of square footage. And from that, we've developed 4 options: new construction option, an addition and adaptive reuse option, and a separation of the 2 departments. But ultimately, I think the option D there, which I would call a strict adaptive reuse, which would be a phased approach to building improvement, is where we have landed. And you can see just a rough square footage allocation component when you extract the Burke County Public Schools and you look at the amount of square footage that is available for utilization. Given the number of employees, you can calculate a cost or a square foot per employee and kind of back into what would be, is the building suitable for continued use for these 2 functions? We believe that it is. Once we got started, I think the logistics and the phasing, not only would the construction components be phased, meaning renovate the space that's there now, and in the future, if additional space is needed, that would be phase 2. Just to do the project now is going to require some pretty sophisticated logistical phasing, given the fact that it's going to be in continued use through the entire project. So the design and the engineering component would be elongated. And then once you start moving folks around, again, the mobilization there will also take some time. But we feel confident that if we can get started, that design phase and construction implementation phase is going to be about 18 months, and we could have a project by 12/31/27 that's complete, substantially complete, ready for the 2 departments to kind of fill that space. Something unique about the building is that it's even though it's old, it's very structurally sound. It's the way the structural integrity is. Most of the weight is on the exterior walls, which allows you to create kind of a blank template inside. Greg Melton who's here with us tonight and is an architect, and he's when we've walked through the building, he said there's 2 types of adaptive reuse projects. There's the start from where you are and move forward, and then there's the tear it all out and start over. And this is a good project for tear it all out and start over because of the way the composition of the structural load is deviated, and just given the fact that there hasn't been really strategic logistical planning and how some of these accommodations have been made over time. It's do this section and then do this section, so there's not a real high level of synchrony about how the building flows. We think that's inefficient, and we think that we can get additional space maximization by doing it in a very intentional, phased, planned way. So the procurement model that we are recommending is this single prime. Oftentimes, for a renovation project like this, you would see a design build or a construction manager at risk. But we think, given the construction market and really the appetite of contractors, this is going to generate the lowest price and create some competitive bidding from our contractors. And when you look at the mechanical systems of the building, which we've done some exploration in, we think this is a good candidate for a single prime bid. Not only will it save money, we think it'll facilitate, the goal would be to do a lot of front-end planning to avoid scope gap in the backside, which costs a lot of, to do change orders and those type of things. But anytime you start tearing out walls and you do different stuff, there's some uncertainty about what you may find. But we feel confident that this is a good project for that. And so we've gone through the posting of this RFP. We put together a selection team, a very competitive process. There were 5 firms that submitted proposals, and this was a request for qualification, to follow the Minnie Brooks Act. Of those 5, our team went through and evaluated based simply on experience and proposal. We landed with our top 2. Our top 2 firms were the Sizemore Group and Holland & Hamrick. And in the final stage, we asked each architectural engineering team to come in and do a presentation to our selection committee, as well as answer a series of interview questions about their experience. Really, as you can see, the scores were fairly close. In round 1, they were very close, 351 to 350. In round 2, Holland & Hamrick pulled a little bit more of a gap, and I think a couple of things created differentiation. One is the Sizemore Group. Although they're in Buncombe County and in North Carolina, they have not practiced very much in the public sector of North Carolina. They had no experience with social services, which is the vast majority of this project. And they were subbing out the construction administration component, where Holland & Hamrick does that in-house. So that means that they are reviewing invoices, checking up on the contractors, making sure that they're doing things to design, and there's not an additional layer of buffer between the county and the contractor. And so we've worked with this firm on several projects, and what's good about them is they know construction and the design. They don't just do one or the other. They eliminate surprises. We stay on time and on budget. And in today's market, those are good things and very challenging. So, Mr. Chairman, the recommendation would be to approve, deny, or modify the authority for the county manager and the county attorney to work on a contract with Holland & Hamrick. And Greg Melton is here, so if the board has questions for him or on behalf of his firm, I know he is happy to answer those as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, before I call for a motion, any question on this item to the manager or Mr. Melton? Seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize the county manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Holland & Hamrick Architects, PA, for architectural and civil engineering services for the HRC or Human Resource Center renovation project as presented, subject to review and/or revisions by the county attorney. Further, if an agreement cannot be reached with the recommended firm, the county manager is authorized to negotiate and execute a contract with the Sizemore Group.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. All those in favor signify by uplifted hand. 4-0. Thank you very much. Decision item number 2 comes from Human Resources, presentation and consideration of updated HR policies. This will be presented by Mark Miller tonight, and this may wish to be carried forward. We'll see what Mr. Miller has to say.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for having me this evening. As you know, we met a couple of weeks ago and presented kind of the history of our work that we've done so far towards updating our policy manual and the work towards substantial equivalency associated with that. Additionally, we feel like that is going forward with the work towards our looking to be an employer of choice in the community and in the area. We're currently scheduled in October to be on the agenda for review by North Carolina OSHA in regards to that substantial equivalency piece of that. So we are looking forward to being reviewed at that time for substantial equivalency. As we discussed earlier in the month, this is a large project. It's been underway for quite some time. We are at the final stages of the project. Really, that stage at this point is having that final draft of the policies under review by the county attorney, and he is in the process of doing that. But we're not completed with that process yet, so we're not able to get those policies to you in a timely manner to get you time to review those. So with that in mind, we want to be able to have more time and review those in anticipation for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have at this time based on where we're at this point in the process. But with where we are, we'd ask that we table tonight's decision and continue that to the July meeting.
All right, thank you, Mark. Gentlemen, you've heard the information. We heard the information during pre-agenda. Any questions for Mark on this item? So do we wish to hold to July or August?
That would be great if we could, yes. That's what we anticipate doing.
Either's fine. July is fine, but July good.
You guys are gonna be done by July?
I think, were you wanting to wait until the commission approved?
No, this board has to approve the resolution to submit, as long as we get it, I mean, sooner's better than later, but when they consider the application for substantial equivalency in October, the resolution approved by the board has to be an attachment to that. So, yeah, so I mean, if everybody's comfortable with July, from a staff perspective, that would be the request.
All right, okay. All right, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to reschedule this item for consideration at our July regular meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. All right, that is, we also going to include the item number 3. So, all right, so just for clarity, resolution supporting substantial equivalency also rescheduled for consideration in July.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to reschedule for consideration in July.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's 4-0, Madam Clerk. All right, now, Mr. Hall, we'll come back to you for an answer on our vetting problem.
I think the final verdict is you're probably going to have to wait because your local policy says, just like the statute does, a quorum is a majority of the board, but it also says a member who withdraws from a meeting of the board without being excused by majority vote of the remaining members present is deemed present for quorum. So y'all are, even if y'all are excusing it though, which the opposite of that is, if you did excuse it, then you may not be accounted for quorum purposes. And the rest of your rules say that if you're here, that essentially you have a duty to vote absent a conflict. So all that's to say, I think if 2 of you excuse or recuse rather from the vote, that leaves 2 of you left. And I think that leaves you on shaky ground. So I would suggest waiting until you got enough numbers to be able to vote on that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, you will note then that the motion number 5 of the item number 1, the budget item, will carry forward to our July meeting and deal with that at that time, okay? All right. This brings us to item 11, reports and comments for tonight. Start right over there with Ms. Margaret. Any comment for us, Ms. Margaret?
No, sir, thank you.
All right. Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
All right, Commissioner Stroud.
I'm excited about America 250, so it's exciting times ahead for North Carolina.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Burns.
I just want to report that I had the pleasure of going to Raleigh for County Advocacy Days this past Wednesday and Tuesday, Wednesday, with Commissioner Stroud and Commissioner Smith. It was a very productive time. We were graciously received by our Senator Warren Daniel and our House Representative Hugh Blackwell. I will say that one of the objects that I have raised for concern here was the old House Bill 765. It has now been added to Senate Bill 205, and it has received the endorsement of the North Carolina Chamber. So I'm very concerned about what the outcome of that will not be.
Burns. Mr. Manager.
Be very brief. PPDR intake continues at Foothills Higher Education Center. I'm trying to get the latest number of applicants. What I received late last week was 25 applicants that had been, seen so far. I expect that number to increase, but I just would encourage folks who may still have debris caused by the storm that's not right-of-way debris to either go online and do an application, or go to the Foothills Higher Education Center, and all those details are on our website. Our PIO team's done a pretty good job of getting that out to do that application. I also report to the board that we will be physically in the Watcher on Wednesday of this week doing waterway debris collection. We're prioritizing the Linville area, but those projects have been a little bit more complicated, so we're probably later in the week before we get there. But we will be up around the Freedom area and the Catawba River on Wednesday of this week. So getting that project mobilized as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Berry.
I really just wanted to thank Brian and Margaret and Kay and all of our staff for the remarkable work on the budget especially, but also with the foster kids and families. I feel really great that it's very fiscally conservative and very responsible, and I mean, maybe just from not having folks here to speak out against anything in the budget, that's a great sign, and thank you folks so much for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Berry. Madam Clerk, anything?
No comments, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, with that, I'll remind everyone that our county offices will be closed July the 4th, along with landfill and convenience sites in observance of the Independence Day. There'll be no pre-agenda meeting in July or August. So if you're just itching to be here for pre-agenda, don't come. There'll be no pre-agenda meeting in July and August. All of our business will be taken care of at our regular meeting in July and August. July 14th will be the date for the Board of Commissioners and Board of Health Advisory Board annual meeting. That'll occur at 8 a.m. right here in our chambers. Continue to ask youth groups and those that might be interested in coming to lead in the Pledge of Allegiance at our meetings to please notify the clerk, and we'd love for you to come and help us to begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Madam Clerk, we'll hear vacancy announcements, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be engaged in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Burke County Public Health Advisory Board, Hickory Regional Planning Commission, Drexel Planning Board, ETJ alternate, Burke County Planning Board, Partners Health Management's Human Rights Committee, Burke Development, Inc., and the Animal Advisory Board.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. That brings us to item number 13, closed session. We do not have a need tonight for a closed session. So, gentlemen, with that conclusion, that brings us to item 14, adjournment. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. All those in favor, signify by the uplifted hand. That is all of us. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Appreciate your attendance at our meeting.